Sports Interaction, Canada Sportsbook.
Hello, I'm Kaja May, and welcome to Game Over Vancouver. I'm also here with Sam! Yay!
Hello. Am I frozen again?
Yeah, you're frozen again.
Why does this keep happening to me?
We're doing great tonight. We're doing great. It's the first Game Over win that I am able to cover, so that's
We
great.
now each have one.
We now each have one. Exactly. That is great. That is great. Just before we begin here, I'm just gonna do a quick message from our sponsors. Want to bet? You can do it at Sports Interaction Canada Sportsbook. Football continues, the World Series is ongoing, and the hockey season is well underway. Bet pregame, live in play, or on one of our many prop bets. Made for Canadians by Canadians, Sports Interaction makes it easy to deposit, play, and cash out. Join now and see all sports betting has to offer. Head to sportsinteraction.com/SDPN. That's sportsinteraction.com/SDPN. Ontario only, 19 plus. Please play responsibly. All right. We won 8-5. I think it's definitely a little bit of payback, considering the last time that the Ducks played in Vancouver, they beat the Canucks 7-4, which is kind of not great. But yeah, it was certainly a fun game. They're mentioning how Bruce wanted low event hockey. He did not get that. And Kuzmenko got his first hat trick in the NHL. Hopefully of many. What are your thoughts on this, Sam?
My first thought was everyone say thank you to the Edmonton Oilers for taking him to Joey's.
Oh, yep.
That's the first thing. And notwithstanding that he had the hat trick, I thought the best thing about tonight was that it was another great game from Bo Horvat and from Elias Pettersson, and it feels good to win.
Yeah. We don't get that a lot in Vancouver.
Really
Uh
wasn't expecting John Gibson to give up that many goals.
oh yeah, no. He's had kind of the not great start to the season. Um I mean, it's kind of like he and Demko were the two Pacific All-Star goalies last year, right? And they both have not had great starts to the season.
No.
So, I don't know. Is there an All-Star curse? Is that a thing? But yeah, it's certainly an interesting. It was an interesting game to watch because I turned it on and it was 0-0. And yeah, and then Troy Terry scores on the penalty kill, which actually ended the Ducks not scoring for 27 power plays. Like they were 0 for 27. And then they score on, I'm pretty sure they scored on every single, no, they didn't. They did not score on the third. But they were 2 for 3 tonight on the uh power play. The Ducks were. Which means us being last on the penalty kill, that stays. That's a reminder of last year. And I mean we converted a few power plays. There wasn't a lot. Like I feel like there's been a lot of games recently where there's a lot of calls, whereas this game I think there were 6.
Yeah.
Um so yeah, and then yeah, Bo Horvat having an insane game. It's his third straight multi-goal game from our captain. Pettersson stepping up, especially as they're both like kind of the centers right now, considering they're trying to load the top 6 instead of having, Petey or Bo or one of them being pushed to the third C spot, which is still like a point of contention apparently because injuries, of course, but
I
yeah.
mean, I'm sure the happiest. I saw somebody else said this in the chat, but I'm sure the person happiest is Pat Morris, Kuza. I've been telling everyone that Bo is a 1C and should be paid as a 1C.
So
And
true.
like Kaya and I were saying before we started the stream, that he is now second in scoring and he's only 1 goal behind Connor McDavid.
Yeah. Even with like Erik Karlsson getting a hat trick last night, because apparently was it last night or 2 nights ago? I think it was. I think it was last night. Yeah. Him getting a hat trick, and still Bo was tied with him with 9 goals, and then now I believe he has 10. So yeah, second. Connor McDavid has 11. Kind of insane. But yeah, Bo has, I think, 5 power play goals now on the season. This is another shorthanded goal on the season. Considering we scored, like, I think we had like 6 shorthanded last year in total, and pretty sure Bo and Petey were the guys who had more of them. Yeah, and also Bo has now, in 29 games, he has 24 goals, dating back to last season. So he definitely is deserving of the hype that a 1C would get. But yeah, it's just the fact of the hard cap. Are we going to be able to pay him, or is he playing this well in order to bypass to free agency or get traded later on down the line? And I know this is like, we're like 11 games into the season, we should not be stressing out over this, but it's Vancouver. We theorize about everything here. Apparently everyone in the locker room hates each other, so there's that. Yeah. Bo is definitely turning up the heat. He's the only one on the team with an over 50% face-off percentage. Technically he's not, but on the stat sheet, but that's because Dakota Joshua has taken 3 face-offs and won 2 of them. So technically he has 66%. But yeah, he is one. At the time I wrote this down, he had won 138 of 237, so he's the only one with over 50%. Pettersson has 44.2. Yeah. Horvat is...
I want to know where all the people who, like, 1 or 2 games in, who were really giving Horvat a hard time and saying he shouldn't be captain. I want to know where all those people are at now.
Yeah.
Like, I want to see if those tweets have been deleted. I want to see if people are changing their tune. It's been like a very interesting 180.
Yeah. Especially because, yeah, a lot of people were calling for him to get traded. A lot of people are just like, oh, this is why we paid Miller. This is why we paid Miller. And now Miller's getting in trouble.
Miller's getting paid like a 1C, but he's a winger.
Yeah, it makes absolutely no sense to me. But you know what? At least we're not paying somebody like $13 million for less points. Sorry, Tyler Seguin, I'm calling you out. But I like Tyler Seguin. I don't know why I'm doing that. But yeah.
Wedding planning.
Yeah. Oh yeah, wedding planning. He's focused on that, and also dressing up as Machine Gun Kelly, apparently. Was it Machine Gun? Yeah.
It was Machine Gun Kelly.
It was Machine Gun Kelly. I was like, there's too many of those weird couples in Hollywood. Anyway, I digress. Dakota Joshua stepping up tonight a bit.
Yeah.
It was the first true 5-on-5 goal since Minnesota. And Dakota Joshua had a fight and scored a goal in the game. What are your thoughts on this fourth line and how it compares to how we had the motto line last year with Tyler Mott, Juho Lammikko, and Matthew Highmore, and how those guys kind of like Tyler Mott was the talk of the town. I believe you interviewed him on broadcast, right? Yeah. How does it compare to...
He's having like a good start to the season in Ottawa too.
Yes.
So I think it's safe to say so far this line seems, I think it's a little bit of like, what have you done for me lately? But hard to find things to criticize about this fourth line right now. But I do miss Tyler Mott.
Yeah. Tyler Mott, I like him. That's like, when he went to the Rangers, that I was like, okay, yay, because I also like the Rangers, so like I was like, okay, still get to watch him. And then he goes to the Sens, and I'm like, perfect. Yeah. The fourth line is certainly stepping up a bit. I do like Niels Oman. I believe he was a good pickup. For us, he's already scored his first NHL goal. Yeah, it was certainly an interesting move when in the beginning of the offseason, people were saying, oh, Patrick Alvin's just signing all these Swedes, like what's going on? And then now they're like lighting it up in both the NHL and the AHL, with Linus Karlsson, I believe. Yes. He's been pretty good for Abbotsford so far. Yeah, that the off season was certainly an interesting one, but that has been a shining light was definitely the pickups from Sweden. Another shining light in our off-season pickups. Speaking of that, Andrei Kuzmenko gets a hat trick in one period of hockey. May I remind you, it was 3-2 at the beginning of the third, and it ended 8-5. What are your impressions on Kuzmenko, and how much are we going to have to pay him in the off-season?
I have really enjoyed watching Kuzmenko so far. I mean, not just because of the scoring, but also he's enjoyable to watch. And like I've never been in the Sidney Crosby, like not really celebrating a goal kind of school. Like if you score, I want to see your best Sully, and he brings it. And so he, like, for his entertainment value, just absolutely like out of this world. And yeah, I'm not looking forward to seeing the Canucks having to pay anyone.
Yeah, fair enough.
Because the people they're paying, I take issue with how much they're paying them already. So yeah. I'm not going to bring the vibes down. We won.
Yeah, we won.
Cap problems for another day.
Yeah, exactly. Cap problems. Yeah, the Capitals lost today. That's their problem. Whatever. I believe they lost. That sounds right. Yeah, Kuzmenko has certainly been a shining light. Again, shout out to the Oilers for taking him to Joey's, which I actually don't understand what the correlation to Joey's is. Is that like an Alberta place?
No. So Joey's is actually like a local BC chain, but it's like, and it's good. It's not like bad. It's just nothing.
It's like if he came here and they took him to a white spot instead of a cactus.
It's more like a cactus. Joey's and cactus
like a cactus.
Are the same thing. Yeah, Joey's cactus and pearls are kind of like interchangeable.
Okay.
And I think people thought the Oilers should have taken him somewhere like a step above cactus.
Yeah. Anyway, aside from the politics of restaurants in BC, yes, Kuzmenko is kind of insane. I do like his positivity. You see that a lot in the younger guys, and also the pickups from specifically the KHL, I've noticed. Because Kaprizov has that swagger about him. Panarin has that whole thing where he like kicks his leg up like super high. Panarin's also just a funky little guy. I love that guy. But and then Kuzmenko is this shining bright light in the Canucks organization right now. Like they posted photos of him with Rip the team puppy the other day, and it's just like him with this giant smile on his face, and he's bringing positive vibes to the organization that hasn't had positive vibes in a while. And he's also, aside from the scoring, he's super fast. That line is like insane with Pettersson, Mikheyev, and Kuzmenko. That line is so speedy, and it's insane that that's our second line.
I was also going to say he's really starting to gel with Petey, which is really fun to watch. Like I am a not so secret bring back Besser and Pettersson.
Oh yeah.
Fan. I don't feel like Petey's really been given his favorite wingers to play with in a while, and it's nice to see him gelling with someone who can actually finish off all his passing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's certainly important to have like somebody you can rely on in that situation. For kind of going back and forth, like the whole debate over Hughes not having an actual D partner since Tanev left. But yeah, Kuzmenko, also his bromance with Podkolzin, love that. The Russians, they're awesome. Yeah, it's certainly important for Pettersson to have somebody that can match his speed on his line, because Brock, when you had like the Lotto line, with Brock and Miller, with Pettersson, because 649, and when you had the Lotto line, like, yes, Miller can speed up at times, Besser can speed up at times, but Pettersson's a rocket.
Yeah.
You cannot stop the rocket. But if he is somebody that can't keep up with that speed, then you can't really, like, who's he gonna pass to? Like, the wall? The stanchion? Haha, that's
Not anymore.
not
Not
anymore.
Anyway.
Not anymore. They cut it out. Yeah. He's fast. Mikheyev is insane. He was fast on the Leafs, and he's fast here. And people were complaining about overpaying him, and I'm just like, well, there are worse things we're paying for at the moment.
A lot.
A lot
there
worse.
There were quite a few more worse things we're paying for.
I guess.
Paying more for.
Oh gosh. I just want to take a moment. Like, comment, subscribe, rate, follow, all that fun stuff. Really helps us out here, and I hope you're really enjoying the show, because we love doing it. The lines. What'd you think about Burrows and Rathbone being scratched again, and Hoglander being scratched?
I don't like it.
Yeah.
I don't think this defense is anything to write home about. I think it's one of the worst blue lines in the league. And frankly, I think Rathbone and Burrows have been better than the players they iced tonight. And I'm surprised by some of these decisions. It's hard to critique taking Hoglander out when they've had a game where they broke out for 8 goals. But again, that's not something that I think is correlated with his play. But I think Rathbone has actually been one of their better defensemen so far, and so I don't like it. I'm not a big Stillman fan.
Yeah, no, me neither. Like when Comtois was going and he made it was the 7-5 goal. Yeah, and he took the gamble way too early, and I guess the move Comtois made, he was kind of cool, but also at the same time, why is Quinn Hughes booking it back? Also, it was weird because they're both lefties, or lefty. Stillman was a -1 tonight, says in the chat. So that's a little concerning. Yeah, I'd love to see Rathbone back, because especially when Quinn Hughes was out, he was kind of like a shining light, sort of, in on the defense, because yeah, there's not a lot to write home about when you're talking about the defense capabilities of the Vancouver Canucks.
Just like another bad night for OEL.
Yeah,
I can't watch 4 more seasons of this. I can't watch 4 more seasons of paying him what we're paying him.
Mm-hmm.
And
that's gonna be kind of like, you know, when you like have a paper cut and you forget about it and you put hand sanitizer on, he's gonna be that paper cut that Benning left.
Yeah.
For years to come. And I'm not saying, like, I don't absolutely hate OEL, but like that's a lot of money to pay somebody, and I get it. He's good for like leadership, but what else? Like, Myers had an assist tonight. Tyler Myers, who didn't score until the East Coast New York road trip, and that was the only goal he had the entire season. With his family in the building, which I think was still pretty cool. Also, what do you think about them splitting up? They put Hughes and Shen on as the first pair. I really like that pair. I'm gonna be honest. I'm a big Luke Shen fan. Yeah.
I think it reminds me a bit of the Hughes Tanev pairing, where if he has kind of that steadier veteran defenseman with him, he plays a better game. He,
Hmm.
for whatever reason, just does better.
Yeah. I think people something people mention with like that kind of thing was where they're just like, oh yeah, well Tanev can move the puck better. I'm just like, yeah, well Luke Shen will literally kill somebody if they hit Quinn Hughes. Like I still after the fight the other day where Luke Shen got ejected from the game, um I literally just went on YouTube and I watched like every single Luke Shen fight. And including the one where Jamie Benn takes a massive hit on Quinn Hughes and then Luke Shen beats him up for it. Um, and I kind of like having that, like the big guy and like puck moving person.
Yeah.
That's why I think they should get Rathbone back in there and put him even with Bear, maybe. Um, but they did split up the Ekman-Larsson Myers pairing, which I thought was weird. Which I not weird, but that's the pairing that they kind of had for their first pairing because it's worth like 14 million or something.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying I don't not like Myers. Like he's iconic. He's 6 foot like 9 and he's chaotic all the time, which isn't the greatest for us all the time. But you know, I
This
um
reminded me of like my least favorite fun fact of all time, which is that Myers and OEL make more money than Kel McCarr and Devon Taves combined.
oh
Yeah, that's something
oh
depressing for everyone out there.
okay.
Yeah.
Um that kind of hurts a little bit.
Yeah.
Thanks, Jim Benning. God. Kuzi got the belt as he should. Um, Thank you, McKaylee, for the update. Uh, yeah. Ekman-Larsson and Bear. Certainly an interesting pairing. I know they're trying to figure out where Bear fits in the lineup. I know they're still trying to figure out where Stillman fits in the lineup because they put him with Myers. And yeah, I think that they should put Rathbone in on Saturday instead
Yeah.
of
I think that's
Stillman.
unanimous.
Yeah.
I haven't seen a single person say otherwise.
Yeah, like everyone has been outraged that Rathbone, Burrows and Rathbone have been scratched, but especially I've seen a lot for Rathbone because it's like you've had this guy for how long and you keep just sticking him, either scratching him or sticking him in Abbotsford. And yes, he's still good in Abbotsford, but also he would become like one of our better defensemen. He would, upgrade our blue line immensely. And yeah, they keep scratching him, and is it like worried because he's like a small guy? And I'm like, okay, well we need more than one defenseman who can move the puck. Because yes,
Yeah.
Bear can do it, I guess. Hughes, obviously, he skates like a madman, but Rathbone was like a baby Hughes. He's like the little blonde baby Hughes. Like that's even though he's like almost the same age as him, I think, or something like that.
And
But
that's one of the more frustrating things watching this team is like when you have as weak of a blue line as they do, what is the reluctance to let a player like Rathbone play? It's not like you actually have the players available to shelter his minutes. Like there's no reason for doing that. He's actually one of your better players, and he can only get better with more ice time.
exactly, like you want to develop these guys, but you need to play them in order to develop them. There's like a whole debate going on in Seattle right now because they're not playing Shane Wright at all. Um, yeah, if you want to develop guys, if you want to be a place where you don't need to sign free agents in order to get decent, you don't need to sign free agents to like a 6x6 in the Benning form, or trading for a veteran defenseman past his prime. Like you don't need to do that if you develop these guys, but they're not developing them. they're
Yeah.
just they're just ignoring him. Like the only defensive development they've had would be Quinn Hughes.
I don't know how much you can really call that
NHL.
development. Like he would have he would
Yeah.
have been fine wherever he was going.
Yeah, fair enough. They barely developed him, whereas Rathbone, like put him in the minors. They waited, and now he's ready for the NHL. He's definitely ready. He showed that when Quinn Hughes was out. He showed that when Stillman was out. He showed that he's ready to take the step to become the NHL defenseman that we kind of need him to be at this point. And yeah, they're like, that's arguably our best prospect. And they're just like, yeah, no, we don't need him. We don't need him. Let's scratch him. No! Scratch Stillman. I don't care if he's new. I don't care if you're trying to figure out anything. You can figure that out in practice. You have this young guy. Put him in. Even if you're playing a tough team, put Burrows in on his off wing so he can fight someone. I do not care. Literally, in the Devils game, if we still had Burrows, if Burrows was playing instead of being scratched, I feel like that would have been, like, the fight wouldn't have been the last fight in the game if Burrows was still there. That's what I was gonna say. Yeah. I don't know. I'm also a big Burrows fan, so yeah.
I think he's been great to start the season. Like, for the player he is, he's playing well.
Mm-hmm.
And I just, like, none of these decisions are really making any sense to me. And it's, for me, I think it ties back to a frustration with the way they also keep trading away draft picks, because they seem to be under this impression that, like, if you draft somebody, they're going to be years away. Mm-hmm. It takes forever to develop someone. And, you know, we're seeing picks that they traded away come in and play well off the bat within 1 or 2 years. And it's like, maybe if you actually held on to some of your picks and developed them and played them, you could stop signing all these absurd contracts for players who are aging.
Dylan Guenther.
The
one that got away.
I like that you knew exactly what.
Yeah, you started. I was like, oh gosh, yeah, the 9th overall pick. Oh god, that, like, he has, like, what, 5 goals or something like that?
He has 7 points already.
7 points. Oh god. Yeah, we traded that away to get OEL and Garland.
And everyone's like, oh yeah, it's so that he could have gotten rid of those contracts. Okay, yeah, but there was 1 year left on them and he signed them. So
yeah, like, anyways. That's just, like,
it's always going to come back to this.
Yeah, exactly. F around and find out. Like, that's the best. That's, like, the best line. And also, they called up Dries for the 3rd C. I think he was, I believe, 2nd in AHL point scoring last year or something like that. He's been decent for them in Abbotsford. He played for a bit at the end of last season. I think he's been decent. Yeah, for the NHL, especially because, you know, we have Lazar out, which is the biggest. Yeah. Never forget Virtanen over Pastrnak in 2014. I will never forget.
I actively try to forget that every day.
Oh no, Virtanen over William Nylander, who went 2 picks later. Levy also
over Nylander, Nick Ehlers, and David Pastrnak.
Oh yeah, Nick Ehlers. Also, oh yeah, what happens when Dermott is back? Because who knows when that's going to be, considering he's on LTIR, and so is Pullman. So, who gets scratched then?
I honestly don't care. Just give me a new blue line.
Just, like, yeah, just...
You can play any of them. They're all interchangeable at this point.
At this point, yeah. Except for Luke Shen. You have to keep him in. Yeah. Luke Shen, like, you can't...
Shen and Hughes, yeah.
Shen and Hughes, you can't take... I don't even care about... like, they can scratch Quinn Hughes, but you have to keep Shen in. Luke Shen Defense Club, that is what I am in. Like it. Point also was in that draft. Oh
my god.
Yeah, Igor Shesterkin was also in that draft, and he went in the 4th round because he was still in the KHL, I think. So, yeah. The whole Russian players dropping thing is a real thing. I was gonna say something else. Oh yeah, the 2016 draft. I'm just gonna say that. I'm not gonna mention who was drafted and who was drafted right after. But that was another thing, because people mentioned that Benning was a draft. He was a draft guy, but I'm like, what picks? I guess he drafted, like, who did he draft that is playing? I guess Hughes, Besser. Hughes, Besser, Pettersson. Or Besser's on IR, so he's not playing. Demko, I guess, but he was like 30. Was he 34th or 36th?
This is their 3rd pick. They took him behind Virtanen and McCann.
Yes. Oh yeah, McCann. That guy. Right, him. Dressed up as the guy from Avatar. For Halloween. So did Matthew Tkachuk. A guy we also skipped over.
The Kachuk one was always so weird because he flat out was like, yeah, I knew they weren't going to take me. They like clearly weren't interested and like barely interviewed him. And I always thought that was so weird.
That's so... Is it because, like, his dad?
I
They're
have no
like...
idea.
Is it, like, the reputation of, oh, yeah, you have a Kachuk on the team? And I'm like, okay, well, Matthew Kachuk's good. Both of them are good. Like, I get it. Like, Brady went before Quinn Hughes did in that draft. But, yeah. We don't have...
Interesting decade.
It's been an interesting decade, yeah, to say the least. Okay, how much time? Before we end tonight, congratulations on Kevin Bieksa for retiring officially from the NHL and retiring a Canuck with a one-day contract. Many people wanted him to play tonight.
He should have played tonight. He would have been better than OEL.
Yeah, fair enough. Like,
I realize everyone's making the same joke. No, I'm not joking. I'm not joking.
Yeah.
I am 100% serious. He would be better than OEL.
Oh yeah, no, one of my friends texted me today. She's like, "Is he playing tonight?" I'm like, "No, that's not how this works." And she's like, "Oh, he should." I was like, "Yeah." Like, he should have. Like, he's only a 2001 draft pick. Like, that's not that long ago. I wasn't born, but it wasn't that long ago.
Oh my God. I have to log off now.
I'm sorry. No, don't leave me. Yeah, he won the ceremonial face-off against Fowler, which I thought was really funny because they're former teammates. Bruce also is his former coach in Anaheim. So that was fun. It was also fun to see him and Bo again because the last season he played in Vancouver was Bo's rookie season, and they played together in the playoffs, which was one of the 2 times Horvat has been in the playoffs. But yeah, so it was cool to see them. They had a really cool photo of him and Quinn Hughes together. I really like that. And yeah, they gifted a piece of the stanchion he hit for the stanchion goal, which actually lights up, and it was presented by Daniel Sedin. It actually lights up when that goal was scored. I remember watching that goal when I was very, very young. But you were there for that game. What was the experience like?
I was at that game. That is probably one of my all-time favorite games I've been to. I remember Kessler scoring the tying goal and like running out to the store in between the third period and the first overtime to buy a Kessler jersey because I was so excited. And then getting back and seeing the stanchion goal, like, and little did I know that that was going to be like one of the last really good Canucks games I would see live in a very long time.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, that's definitely one of my all-time games, if not the all-time game. Like, it felt like winning the cup. Like, as far as I'm concerned, that's where the playoffs ended that year.
Yeah, that's like, we ignore who are the Boston Bruins. Like,
that never happened.
That never happened. But yeah, like, just take off the tattoos that everyone got after the cups, like Sagan, Marchand, I think Lucic has one. But yeah, it was certainly a great game. It was a great game. And I know people were knocking on the Montreal Canadiens after they won in the conference final in 2021. But that's basically what happened in Vancouver in 2011. So, especially with that goal in second overtime, which would have been like 10:30 p.m. And I was, not to make anyone feel old, I was 8. I was 8. Way past my bedtime because I was 8, and yeah, I'm sorry. But yeah, it was cool. Hit the stanchion goal. He gave a speech. He participated in practice today. I loved the video of that and him saying, "I could still score 5 goals," and on this blue line, I bet he could. Yeah. I was gonna say something. Yeah, he mentioned in his speech. He gave a speech to the team. Riots are bad. Yeah, well, that didn't count because that didn't happen because we won the conference final and nothing else happened. What do you mean? Yeah, he mentioned he missed the playoffs a few times. like a handful, like barely a handful of times. Like, he said twice, I believe, in the video, but technically it was 3. But he only played 39 games in his first season his first official season with the Canucks, and actually, I might have done the math wrong. He may have only made the playoffs twice. But for comparison, the Canucks have made the playoffs 3 times in 10 years, and he was part of 2 of those. And our current captain, who is, I think he is the longest tenured member of the team at this point. That sounds right. Yeah, he has been in the playoffs twice. 2015 in his rookie season with Bieksa, and the 2020 bubble was the first time he won a round in the playoffs. So, it's not a knock on Horvat. Obviously, he just had his 3rd straight multi-goal game, and we're talking about how much we're going to have to pay him in a few years. But that kind of shows the comparison of how good the back-to-back President's Trophy winning Canucks were, and how kind of that era was a bit of a golden era. And that's why I feel like, I don't know, I grew up in that era, so it's like I'm used to the success, and then when we're bad, I'm just like, oh, this is not good. Which, I mean, like, has been the last few years, but it's like, yeah, it's certainly interesting how the Canucks kind of nosedived after 2013, I'd say.
When they weren't trying to. It wasn't like,
yeah.
That's the worst part about it, is like, if it was a planned, limited tank, that's one thing, but this was like purely accidental.
Like, it was just a win now, win now, win now. They went through 4 coaches. They've gone through 5 coaches in the last decade. Back to 2013, because then they fired Alain Vigneault, and then it was Tortorella, and then it was Desjardins, then it was Green, and now it's Bruce, obviously. And they're still paying Travis Green. And during that time, they only had, like, a couple GMs, like Gillis at the end of 2014, leaves, and then we get Jimbo, Jim Benning, and then now we're obviously with Patrick Allvin. But like in that time frame, there's been a handful of coaches, and it's always been the coach's fault, whereas there was this guy who's sitting there and signing players to ludicrous deals and trading away draft picks, and he's like, oh yeah, no, we're gonna be good this year. We're gonna be good this year. Like, they should have done what New York just did and was like, okay, we're going to they sent out a letter to the fans, and we're like, oh yeah, we're gonna have a rebuild. Just by the way. And they still kept a lot of good core players. Like, they kept Kreider, they kept Zibanejad. I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
Like,
I'm sorry.
Biggest pet peeve when they're like, this fan base can't tolerate a rebuild. It's like, no, you just have to communicate. Like,
yeah.
It's really not that hard.
Communication is key. I'm a communications major. It is a very important thing, and they just need to be able to talk. Like, that was kind of something that made me a little bit mad, was when the jerseys were thrown on the ice and Miller said he didn't give a shit about it, essentially. And I was just like, okay, well, this kind of gives me the era of Jim Benning being asked at the draft what was going on, and he just goes, nope. Like, yeah. Our draft history isn't good. Our prospect pool is certainly dwindling. But you know what? We won tonight 8-5 against a team that was actually ahead of us in division standings. So, I'm so sorry. Hats were thrown on this time, not jerseys. We're taking that as a dub. Yeah.
As it should be.
As it should be. And also, like, the actual game. We just won, because they won a dub. A W, because that's... I'm talking. I'm sorry. Yeah. Do you have any last words? That's like super. That's super like. That's super morbid. Yeah. Yeah.
Do I have any last thoughts on the Canucks? No.
I try not to think.
Like, revel in the win. Go watch the Kuzmenko goals again, and let's see if they can do it again.
Yeah. I try not to think about the Canucks. When I can, I'm joking, obviously. Anaheim also embarrassed the Leafs. Yeah, the Leafs are in an interesting situation right now, but I think we're probably still gonna win on next Saturday. I mean, hopefully I'll be there, and I've never seen the Canucks lose in regulation. I should go to more games then. I've
Go to
only
more games.
I should, but they. Words are gone. The words are done. Yeah, so it's been fun. I finally got to cover a win. On Game Over. We're making Game Over history. It's my first win. You had a win. Clay had a win. It's my first win. It was like a thing. A thing for a while.
Another one soon.
Yeah, hopefully. Fingers crossed. I have Saturday too, so fingers crossed. Yeah. We're still probably 32nd in the league, but you know what? We did beat the Ducks 8-5. So, who cares? Who cares? This is our Stanley Cup. Plan the parade. Plan the parade. Okay, I have been Kaja May. This has been Sam. Pointed at the wrong area. Hopefully you enjoyed tonight's show of Game Over, Vancouver. Remember to like, comment, subscribe, review, rate, all that fun stuff. Share the show if you would like to. We love getting to interact with you guys and all. And yeah, it's been super fun covering this monstrous Canuck win tonight with you, Sam.
I'm so happy you got a win.
Thank you. Yeah. Hopefully there will be many more in the future, but as of right now, we've had 3. Good night, everyone, and hopefully you have a wonderful next couple of days before the Canucks face off the Predators on Saturday. Good night!